By saying it to the camera, I'm telling you guys now that I will achieve 10K a month.
It doesn't matter how good of a salesperson you are.
The best thing about high ticket sales is, and then it got to a point where that was also slowing down, so it was time for me to take a drastic change, to take a leap of faith. I need to make an exit now.
I would never advocate someone to dive straight into that.
They just don't know that they need this right now.
Because it literally allows you to erase your old identity and become a new person.
Especially at the highest levels, there is money everywhere.
He went from corporate job, January this year, to 3K a month. All I did was train him in person and now makes 30K.
The best thing about high ticket sales is
you just put your foot in the door. You haven't actually began your journey.
You are not a salesman, you are a therapist. It's a lot easier to make the sale because you're not emotionally invested.
For us, the most important thing is
client out and ask you, can I get this in writing? Can I get this visually? But they've just been on the call with you this whole time. If that is the case, then client might be put off by that. You need to break it down into whether it's either the price of the product, or if it's the value.
Do you want to expedite the process and move quicker, or do you want to figure everything out by yourself? I'll tell you guys for free, I didn't figure everything out by myself. Right, but seriously, the only way you can elevate is by... David.
Isaac.
Good to have you here. So, if you're watching this video, you probably saw a title along the lines of taking an accountant making 2, 3, 4K a month to making 15K a month, 10K a month, 20K a month as a high ticket sales closer. Maybe you're already in the sales space and you think, I've seen this before and I want to see this again. I want to see the transformation. I want to see the roadmap. Maybe you're not in the sales space and you're thinking, how can I make 10, 15, 20K a month as a high ticket sales closer? Nonetheless, you're going to gain some value from this video. What we're going to be doing today is this. David is a new student of Godmade Sales, our mentorship program where we teach people who are already in sales, in corporate, working a 9 to 5, door-to-door, car sales, you name it, and take them from this position to making 5, 10, 15, 20K a month as a high ticket sales closer. And the crazy thing is, David is my brother. Right? So yeah, this is a beautiful thing. This is a beautiful thing. And we're going to be going over, first and foremost, his kind of personal story, his roadmap that we've actually ascertained for him. And he's actually going to be doing his live assessment because he's already started. He's already gone through some of the modules. He's going to be breaking down sales for himself and everything that he's learned. And then we're going to be going into the next phase of his journey. I hope you're excited for this video. You're going to gain immense value if you're anyone in the sales space. And it's good to see the beginning before the end of him, of course, getting placed on a role and actually performing and collecting commissions, which actually is next week. Yes. So, David, are you ready?
I'm down, I'm ready.
I mean, first and foremost, I want you to tell everyone your story. Like, tell them a bit about you, who you are, and why you even decided to get into high ticket sales yourself.
Amazing. So I'm David. I went to Durham University, studied accounting and finance. I actually finished last year. And yeah, so I've been trying multiple business ventures. I actually did reselling with my brother and my friend as well, not too long ago, 2022. We sold shoes, sneakers, we sold watches and different items as well, PS5s as well. Think of an item that you probably wanted to consume, we probably sold it. And I invested in that market quite a bit. I also did a bit of ticket selling as well. So, for concerts as well, I was the guy you go to in order to get those tickets. And I did that for a bit in 2024, etc. And then afterwards, it got to a point where I was trying different business ventures and I understood that this 9 to 5 couldn't be a means to an end. So I was looking at different ventures. I tried e-commerce for a bit and I got a few sales on that, went quite well. And then it got to a point where that was also slowing down. So it was time for me to take a drastic change, to take a leap of faith. And not so a leap of faith, but invest in myself. And I felt sales was the best way to do that. I already saw my brother, very successful, astute young man as well as he's doing. And yeah, it was time for me to take that journey. And in my 9 to 5 as a financial analyst role, obviously I'm studying for the ACA exams. This was also quite great as well. And initially it was a good corporate experience, but I kind of didn't want to fall into the cycle of security and kind of getting laid back and finding it quite easy because it does get repetitive. It does get boring. So I got to a point where I was like, yeah, I need to make an exit now, and this is essentially my exit plan. To break into the closing role, into the sales industry, and make sure that I obtain financial freedom. Because at this point of time, it's not about how much money I make, but it's about being able to use that money when I want, how I want to use it. And I think that's the most important thing for me at this current period of time. So yeah, this is where I'm at right now, and I know I need to go.
It's very interesting. I want to pick on a couple of things you said, David. Number one, you said it's not just about the money you make, but it's about how you can spend that money, where you can be while making that money, if you have to report to a boss like a slave and clock in day out and have to go in person, or you can be on a beach in Bali, closing calls, collecting commissions, making more money. Now, the beautiful thing about the high ticket sales space is this, and frankly speaking, to give you guys some context on who I am, my name's Isaac, run a growth partner agency. We help entrepreneurs, experts scale up their education companies, but also run Godmade sales coaching education company. And the question is, why don't you tell people to do what you do? Frankly speaking, entrepreneurship is beautiful, but going from 9 to 5 corporate job, diving straight into a full entrepreneurial venture is very difficult. There's so many skill sets that are involved in doing what I do. The marketing, the sales, which is why I'm able to teach sales, managing the teams, the systems, the back end, running paid ads, organic traffic, social media, etc., and closing the clients. There's so many different aspects to that. I would never advocate someone to dive straight into that. I would actually advocate someone to get into sales and take that first step. It's still risky for sure, because you're on, in our industry, 10% commissions. However, the upside is inevitable, and frankly speaking, the best case study I'll ever and keep speaking about is Peter. Funny thing is, he's behind the camera right now. He went from corporate job January this year to 3K a month. All I did was train him in person, helped him jump on a roll, and now makes 20, 30K a month. That for me is one of the best examples of the fact that high ticket sales is potent. It's incredible. Now I want to ask you this, David. You could have picked any other business model, any other venture, any other thing. Why did you pick high ticket sales specifically?
I would say the best thing about high ticket sales is, there's no ceiling. Now, if we look at other ventures, so e-commerce, you've tried that, got a couple of sales, but the thing is, the reality is a lot of gurus and a lot of online influencers that are in the e-commerce space don't actually divulge all the necessities of e-commerce. So they don't talk about the advertising, they don't talk about the website making, they don't talk about the ads, the content creation that goes behind the product in the first place. So that's why I think it's a good venture, and I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but for me personally, I had to kind of look at it from an outside perspective. Now, in terms of sales, it's very, very easy to get into. It's just you and your ability, and you're investing in yourself. You're investing in your communication, in your speaking skills before you even get to that in the first place. And it also is a mindset shift as well. I've also realized I've had to drop a lot of things that I knew before, a lot of ideologies that I knew before. And that's how I, started going through the sales training, by coming through with an open mindset. Then also you have other ventures like trading, etc. And then these also do work. This is not to say that they don't work, but sales is the easiest barrier to entry. You can just step into it now as a person. You can learn communication, you can learn all these speaking skills. And yes, they might be harder for some people. Some people have accents, some people don't, but it's possible for everybody.
I like that. Low barriers to entry, as long as you are to a degree an articulate person, to a degree a charismatic person, to a degree a hardworking person. Because someone can be genuinely in a bad situation in terms of the way they articulate and speak at the beginning, but with real change. And when I say change, I mean genuinely killing your old self, becoming new, not just in the skill set basis, but also the mindset basis. You can do some incredible things. Now, David, what is the goal here? I don't just want you to tell me the monetary goal in terms of high ticket sales, but I also want you to tell me the lifestyle change you want to achieve.
Right. So before I go into the goal, this is actually, I consumed the course just before sales, and this was like to shift my mindset entirely. And I think the problem is I never had clarity of my goal. I wanted to make money, I wanted to obtain financial freedom, but I never knew how to get there. Now, the first goal monetary would be 10K a month. And the reason why I say this is because I'm a big traveler. I love traveling. Over this year, I've gone to 4 countries already. Went to Dubai with my brother and my friend. I also went to LA as well, not too long ago. I went to Austria with my siblings. And what was the other country I went to? Monaco. I also went to Monaco as well. So I just love traveling because it shows you different worlds. It shows you different data sets that you download. And it's an amazing experience. And I know that I can't travel if I haven't got that financial freedom. So that is why I had to clarify my goals and look back and say, these are the objectives I want to achieve. And I want to achieve them at this particular point in time, when I want to achieve them, how I want to achieve them, and why I want to achieve them. So 10K a month is the first goal for me. And so.
Okay. And if you were to say a date and time, to achieve that?
Amazing. And I'm going to say December. I'm going to say December is my day and time to achieve 10K a month. And I think this is the hardest one out of not just the monetary amount, but the timing as well, because you're setting yourself a standard. And it means that you have to keep to that standard. You have to be tough on yourself. You have to hold yourself accountable. So by saying this, by saying December, and by saying it to the camera, I'm telling you guys now that I will achieve 10K a month. So yes.
I like the conviction. I like the conviction. Now, what we're about to do is dive into the roadmap we take every student in Godmade sales. Right, this is super important. And before we even dive into that, there are three components that are important in order to make 5, 10, 15, 20K a month as a high ticket sales rep. The 3Cs, the 3C system. Number one, we have competence, right? Your actual sales ability. We know there are so many components in terms of sales ability. There's tonality, there's discovery, there's pre-objection handling, even beyond the actual objection handling. There's framing the call the correct way, there's building rapport, there's pitching the correct way, the temperature check, there's using NEPQ, subconscious selling, persuasion. There's so many different aspects of sales, right? So having the competence in the first place is what's going to allow you to perform. And there's some people, if I'm being deadly honest, who are very natural, already charismatic individuals, already know how to articulate themselves the right way, and already know how to shift someone's paradigm. Because what we're doing in sales naturally, all we're doing is, number one, coaching someone to make the correct decision, even if that decision is not buying your program or not buying your service. Number two, we're shifting the way they think. Frankly speaking, most people who jump on sales calls, they're broken individuals, or they're faulty individuals where they know they need help and they have not been getting help until the point of waiting 6 months, 12 months in the same position. We now need to shift their paradigm. The competence is very important with this, but beyond competence, and this is the second C here, and I can't stress this enough, it's the conviction. Conviction is not just important in sales, though, it's important in life, right? There's someone who does e-com and there's someone who also does e-com, but one guy absolutely dyingly believes he's gonna become a millionaire with e-com, and there's one guy who's like, I'm gonna try this out and see how it works. The only differentiator was the conviction they had in it, and that's the differentiator of success. But the crazy thing is, in sales, conviction and energy transmutation can be felt through the call. I'm sure when I'm speaking to you guys right now, you can feel it through the call. We're speaking, we're having a conversation here. So having that conviction, and conviction comes with many, many ways, but number one, it does come from competence. When you're so good at sales, the conviction just flies through, number one. But number two, it comes via the offer, and that's what we're going to get into the third C. If you actually believe that the product is serving people, for example, one thing I do with my sales teams when I'm managing them is on a regular basis, we show them testimonials of the people that they've been closing. So we're showing them the wins, showing them that they're actually doing a good thing. If you actually have conviction in the offer itself, you're winning, right? And then finally, we have company. The company you work for. You can be the best salesman in the world. If you don't work for a good company, you're not going to make any money, right? So having a good offer that is not just good in terms of OTE, like the expected earnings that you're going to be making, but good in terms of longevity and an actual non-scammy, because that's very big in the industry, non-scammy offer that serves people value. Peter closes for a company that helps people get into business school. He also closes for a company that helps people get into investment banking. These are companies with true exit value that are helping people do something serious, right? If you close on a company that helps people get into cybersecurity, it's very, very good, right? Now, we've gone over the 3 Cs. We're going to dive into the roadmap. I'm going to dive into the laptop right now and kind of show you guys the roadmap that we have for every single student in Godmade Sales. And then we're going to dive into the final part of the video where David's going to be teaching us about sales from what he has learned. So, as you can see, first and foremost, we have the education foundation. And you can see here, we do everything in sprints, right? Why do we do everything in sprints? Success loves speed. Velocity is the number one most important thing in getting any success in anything, right? If a rocket ship needs to break the surface of the universe, it can't go slow, it has to go fast. And so we treat our students in the same way and make them go in sprints. And you can see here, it's under 2 weeks, but how many days did you complete it in, David?
Yeah, I think just over a week. So.
Right, just over a week. So you were ahead of the game, you were on point. I have a student, Adam, who just joined the program and he's completed them in 4 days. He's killing it, right? This is speed. You complete the trainings. What do our trainings actually entail? First and foremost, it's the mindset. And I know you're gonna think, this guy's being cliche, man. Every time, mindset. But the fact of the matter is, everything works. Every mechanism works. We can teach you all the systems and the mechanisms and the techniques. The mindset is the most important because it literally allows you to erase your old identity and become a new person.
Right.
Is it fair to say via the mindset modules that you consumed, you became a new person to a degree?
I did. I definitely became a new person because if everything works, you are the differentiator. So if you're the differentiator, you need to work on your own mindset before anything. You can't achieve anything if you don't fix yourself.
100%, right? And so within the mindset modules, most of the time you'll see some like flimsy stuff and like work hard and stay diligent, but this is some real esoteric stuff. This is like truly the reality profiles you need to step into, how to transmute energy, how to gain conviction and confidence, how to see everything as good and nothing as bad. I want to say a tiny mindset lesson. Nothing is good or bad. There's hot and there's cold. There's light and there's dark. There's these polarities we live in. And the fact of the matter is, if it was too bright, you wouldn't be able to see, and if it was too dark, you'd be blind. So we teach our sales reps, if you don't close a call, right, you need to be super detached from this call. Of course, you want to actually internally close it, but realistically, if you're dying every time you don't close the call, or you're coming to the end of the call and you're like begging internally for them to close, they're gonna feel this in the call. And that's what commission breath is. So we teach our sales reps everything in terms of the mindset side of things, which is super important. And that's the preface. Then of course, we go into my own sales modules, and these crafted by myself and Peter are genuinely incredible stuff. And everyone's gonna say their modules are the best, but I've had people watch not just my own, but other modules that I'm gonna get into in a second, and they're like, it's insane.
Can confirm.
Can confirm, right? And of course, the premise is not just teaching the basic stuff. Of course, you give people the foundation of sales as science, what sales is, the art of articulation. For us, one thing that's super important is to, before getting into the sales techniques, do they know how to articulate themselves and communicate the right way and speak the right way? Do they understand frame control and the fact that a good background is probably going to make you more money than you being in the darkest dungeon with your hoodie on and wired earphones on and then thinking you're good at sales? Frame control is super important. There's so many different aspects you have to teach people before they dive into sales.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter how good of a salesperson you are. Realistically, if you don't understand these prerequisite stuff, you're gone. Then we of course dive into the sales techniques, the anatomy of a sales call, breaking that down top to bottom, secret sales source as well, techniques you can use to push people over the line, using financing, objection handling, pre-objection handling, super important. And then of course, we have the placement modules, right? The placement modules, because realistically, getting the sales skills, that's the first step. Getting placed on a good offer, that's the second step. And of course, we help you guys do this. No worries. We have our network and we have our software platform that we partnered up with that allows people to get placed on offers with much ease. But realistically, it's a case where you go through these modules and you have to understand this one key thing, which is why this is just the beginning of David's journey. You've just put your foot in the door once you finish the modules. That's it. You just put your foot in the door. You haven't actually began your journey. Beyond consuming my own modules, they then go into the secret sales vault, because over my years of being in this industry, I've invested probably over 100K in terms of sales training specific. Of course, I want to give this to my students. There's no way I'm not going to give this to my students, right? I want to give them everything they need to absolutely succeed. And so you go through the sales modules, the secret sales vault, and then you've stepped into the prerequisite level where you can begin sales. Once you finish this education foundation sprint, you then go into first offer placement. And for us, the most important thing is velocity in placing our sales reps. We don't care how good the first offer is, because at the end of the day, with the first offer, that's where you make your mistakes. That's where you learn the art of sales. That's where you can burn calls. Getting them on an offer within 72 hours of finishing the education sprint is paramount for us, and that's the standard we operate in, okay? And so realistically, they've gotten their first offer, they've done the education, and now it's a case of training, repping in the gym. So this includes a couple things. Role play calls, of course, being partnered up with an accountability partner to ensure that you have someone to role play with beyond your sales mentor that you've been assigned to customly. We have the group coaching calls, we have sales call reviews. Of course, being on your first offer immediately allows you speed to just literally get reps in the gym. And on top of all of this, having the opportunity to join our personal teams sales training calls. So these are the teams that I manage who are doing 100K, 200K, 300K a month. Their closers, being able to observe and join those team calls and really understand what high-level closers actually look like. Off the back of all of this and this next sprint, then they have their assessment and their graduation. If they are assessed correctly and they actually pass this assessment by repping with one of the high level reps and actually closing them on a call, this allows them to graduate and ascend to six-figure offer placement. Within six-figure offer placement, it's very, very simple. Now they can go from this current role they're on to a super high level role where they should be making minimum 6 figures a year, and then it's scaling season. Of course, we have reps who are making 30 to 40K a month, right? And this requires a different level of source, a different level of training. And from that point onwards, it's not just about, okay, being a good sales closer, but being put on the perfect role. And on top of that, potentially getting to sales management and different things that are more high leverage. That realistically is the Godmade sales roadmap. Now, we're gonna get into some training.
Fantastic.
David's going to be breaking down over the next 10, 15, 20 minutes, all the different things he's learned in the program so far, the most vital and important things. And we'll go from there, Dave. Take it away.
Amazing, amazing. So, sales. I think one of the first things, as Isaac said before, most important things about sales is mindset in itself. And on a fundamental level, there are no business problems. There are only mindset problems. That's one thing I really learned. Essentially, you need to internalize you've already won. So regardless of the outcome, whether when you come into the call, if you've won, if you get the call, amazing. If you haven't got the call, amazing, because you've still learned something from the call. So as long as you're able to accept that in the first place, it's easy and you can take it from there. Now, I'll go through a couple of mindset rules that I learned. So the first rule was you are genuinely here to help. And this was an interesting one as well because we live in a society where there's so many scams around. We see so many online entrepreneurs, selling their own course or buy my course or buy this. But you need to understand when you're on a certain offer, you are trying to provide help to someone who needs that help. Them coming onto the call in the first place, booking their call through the appointment setter. If they watch the VSL, booking the call from there is their cry for help. They want this, they need this. They just don't know that they need this right now. So your job is to get them from that point to wanting the solution and obtaining the solution and bettering their own life. Especially when you're in a physical coaching program, let's say, someone is not in shape and you're there to help them as well. It might be hard to accept that, okay, cool, this person, I don't know, they might not like my offer, they might not like my training, but they're not in shape. You are trying to get them in shape. So you're here to help. And when you can do this, it's a lot easier to sell because you're selling in a product that you actually believe in. Now, mindset rule number 2, detach from the outcome. And this one is very, very instrumental because I think as someone who did reselling before, it's very difficult when I didn't get a certain sale, or let's say I threw a counter offer on eBay and, didn't obtain the sale. I was like, I didn't get this sale. I need to, move my money, cash flow, etc. But once you're able to accept that, without this or with this, I'm absolutely fine. It's a lot easier to make the sale because you're not emotionally invested. That's also another point to bear in mind. Now, mindset rule number 3, Shankology. Now, what is Shankology? I don't know. Real closers will know about Shankology. And Shankology is essentially a concept that means seeing beyond the curve. This means closing no matter what. No matter what the objection is, no matter what the client says, no matter the complaints, no matter how difficult they are, you end up getting the result that you need. And every deal, as when you're shanking something, you're stabbing it. I think that's also a common term with London people. It's like slang. When you shank someone, you stab them. That's what we're doing to deal. That's what we're doing to every single call that we're on.
And so, I'm going to say one thing about the terms that David just used, Shankology, right? I think it's important to understand that beyond making sure every deal closes, beyond collecting cash by any means necessary, it's also just pushing for a yes or no at every point in time, right? And just moving the needle forward. Because I will see from some of our lower level sales reps that just come into the team and are just getting better. As human beings, we're very adverse to confrontation. We're very adverse to conflict. We don't like being direct and just getting to the point. And so people will just go at the end of a long 30, 40, 50, 60-minute call. Oh, okay, no worries, we'll speak next week. Okay, no worries, you speak to your wife and whatever. Okay, no worries. And you've shied away from the fact of just getting a yes or a no. Because there is a yes or a no on the table. A maybe is a no. A think about it is practically a no. So it's better to just get straight to it, shank the person, and either get them to say absolutely or piss off. So that's one thing that's super important for me. But go ahead, David.
Yeah, amazing. Like, you don't end the call until you get an answer from the client, from the prospect. Now we'll move on to mindset rule number 4. Abundance is the only frequency. And I think this is the one you can really apply to life in general. And I think me and Isaac can relate to this in a sense that, especially when you grow up in an African household, you're always known to, understand that, oh, this is too expensive, or, we need to always seek the cheaper alternative. But when you understand that you have an abundance frequency, then that energy is radiating off you. And you need to let it emit through you. Show you're doing well with actually not doing well. Even if you're not doing well, show you are doing well. Now, I think the importance of this as well is just understanding that money comes and goes. Especially at the highest levels, there is money everywhere. There's always going to be money. So if there's always going to be money, that means there's money to be spent. And if there's money to be spent, you can always make it back. So understand that if you have an abundance mindset, it makes the sales process a lot easier. Because 1, you can detach from the outcome. And 2, it also improves your whole character as well. People want to be around people who have energy, people who can give. You never really want to be from someone who's taking your energy, taking your money, using you for this, using you for that. You want to be around someone who can emit that energy. And that's why the abundance frequency and abundance mindset matters.
Yeah, this guy's going to be a crazy closer. Don't worry. Don't worry. I need to say one thing that's super important about energy transmutation. B2C sales, selling maybe some form of coaching to someone or whatever it is, oftentimes it's about pain building and emotion and what's your reason why and what happens if you don't get to XYZ and things of this nature. But when people step into B2B realm and they are just, a lot of people are blown in the face. They're like, what is going on here? These guys don't care about my reason why, my pain building questions or my consequence questions. They couldn't give a monkey, they couldn't care less. Why is this the case? Because at the level of B2B corporate deals, it's heavily to do with conviction and energy transmutation. Can you transmute energy through the call to make them feel something without sounding corny to the degree where it's obvious that you're trying to make them do this? I remember I came on a B2B sales call, right? And it was with someone very well-known individual in the property space, etc. Had this call, and after 5 minutes, he's like, oh, by the way, you're like my age, right? And I said, how old are you? He said, 20. I said, no, I'm 21. And he goes, no way, no way. He's exclaiming, he's like, what the hell is going on? And said, the aura you had on this call is insane. And I was laughing, right? But this came down to not just the frame control I had on the call, but the energy, the conviction in which I spoke to him about what we're doing here. It's important. So that's super, super important, David, honestly.
Yeah, and it's so true because especially in a friendship group, when you look at, let's say, the most popular person, it's not because, they're the richest or they look the nicest. And obviously those are factors that can attribute to that being the case. But most of the time, it's because of the energy that they emit. They want people to be around them. They surround themselves in a certain way that they carry themselves. And I think this is one thing that, it was very difficult for me to implement initially. You have to tell yourself that you deserve to be in the space you are. You deserve to walk the space you're walking on. Even if you're walking in a massive crowd, walk with confidence. Walk like you deserve to be here because you do deserve to be here. And now that's pretty much the Iron Mindset concluded. And you can admit this, or you can implement this in 3 main ways. I would say the first way is before the call, and you do this by raising your energy. I like to do push-ups. I like to also speak in tongues as well. If you obviously heavily in prayer, you can do this by doing that. You can also during the call, and this is obviously by listening deeply to the prospect as well, looking beyond surface objections. And sometimes also pausing is very important. Even drinking a bit of hot water, taking notes. You can do these things to implement that mindset. And after the call as well, you need to look at what you did wrong. Where could I have improved? What objections did I not handle correctly? And yeah, that's the Iron Mindset essentially. And I think this is the pinnacle of sales because we haven't even gone into any technical abilities, any, little techniques or, any shanks themselves. We've literally just spoke about mindset this whole time. So now you can see how important mindset truly is in the sales process. Amazing. Now, the golden rules of sales. And I think this is one of my favorite models because I told Isaac when I was watching, I was like, bro, he gave me energy while I was going through it. So it's amazing. Now we'll get straight into you thought I was gonna say rule 1, I'm saying rule 0. And rule 0 is actually frame control. The reason why I say this is rule 0 is because this is the initial thing you do before you're even calling, before you're even closing. And frame control is so important because it's how people perceive you. Now, if I came here with a hoodie, I came here, you know, slouching as well, tired, you wouldn't even be taking me seriously. You wouldn't be listening to the words. But you can obviously see we're well dressed as well. You know, the lighting is also good. The background is good. That is your frame control. And understand your environment comes before everything. And it gives the initial perception of you. This is not just an environment physically. It's also due to your surroundings. And also, you can actually apply this into your friendships as well. Who you surround yourself with, because they also represent you as characters. So presentation, look, demeanor, posture. So you've already closed a deal before it starts. Before you even join the call, how you're perceived is so important, because then let's say prospect A comes on to the call and they're like, oh, he's slouching, doesn't really seem to be serious or taking it seriously, he looks really tired, his hair's not really good, it's not really clean. How do you think they're going to carry on through the objections? Do you think they're even going to be able to open up to you in the first place? Think about these things. Now, number 1, so not number 2, number 1. Have warm water ready, and this one is critical. And for someone who, you know, did a bit of public speaking in church as well, it's critical because you need water to lubricate your throat as well, okay? And it's so important because you obviously, I'm talking quite fast now and I probably need to have hot water in this break as well, but when you're obviously speaking a lot, you know, your throat gets dry, so you need water ready. And it also gives you the opportunity to have a break as well, to have a pause while you're listening to the prospect or while you're speaking yourself. Now, number 2, keep a pen in hand. And this is to take notes for the prospect, but also just to look like a professional. Think of a therapist as well. When you're speaking, they're taking notes because they want to understand more about you. They need questions to ask you themselves. That's why it's so important. Number 3, dress like you're worth the wire. Presentation is everything. We've already covered frame control. So you understand that if you come in, you know, tight clothes, not looking nice, not looking decent, you know, not wearing, you know, presentable clothing, how is someone going to take you seriously? If you don't take you seriously, how are others going to take you seriously? Number 4, be in a silent zone. I know this is obviously can be quite difficult in an ethnic background, especially with so much going on, but you need to put yourself in an environment where it's silent. Because we understand that, you know, people like barging in your room. If it means you putting a door on your, locking your door or putting like a sign on your door that says do not disturb, or just telling, you know, your family members or friends or your siblings, whoever you live with, that, okay, please, I've got a call or an important call, then you need to do that. So take actions to make sure you are in a silent zone. Number 5, and this one is also a critical one, have a payment processor ready. Now, if you expect to take payment on the call, which you usually should be doing, because then there's less friction that way, have a payment processor ready, whether it's Stripe, whether it's what that you're using, you also need to have this ready because you obviously want the least amount of friction as possible. If a client says, how can I pay? And you're like, oh, you know, we have PayPal, we have this, or you're fumbling with different options, how do you expect them to even take payment? Because they could just say no. They don't really even necessarily know if they want to pay right now. And if you're not serious or you're not a professional in that setting, can't take payment. Can't take payment, no money. No cash flow, no deals. Number 7, always take something from the call. And I think this relates a lot to shankology, just in the aspect of always come back with something. And whether it's, you know, even downselling if you necessarily need to, or even taking like a little payment or letting them buy an audio book or, you know, a sales PDF or something, always take something from the call. Never end with like, oh, okay, bye. Even if it is that no, even if it is that no in itself, you can follow up with another call, and you can maybe also take inputs from yourself. What could you have done better? So there's always something you can be doing. And this is shankology, seeing beyond the curve, closing no matter what the cause or what the cost is. Now, have a visual element, and this relates to the pitch as well in itself. So oftentimes the client might even ask you, you know, can I get this in writing? Can I get this visually? But they've just been on the call with you this whole time. If that is the case, then have a presentation ready as well so they can understand these details. And that's an easy way to solve that objection. We'll get into objection handling later as well. Number 9, do basic research. And this is so important. This applies to every part in life as well. Usually, especially when I was working as a financial analyst, you know, oftentimes we'll have to do a lot of research for the client because we can't perform services on a personal prospect we have no idea is. Whether, you know, they have a certain background in this, a certain background in that, you know, you need to understand more about the client themselves, who they are personally, what they like to do. Even getting like this, let's say, for example, I had prospect A and they like traveling. I can actually use that as a little bit of small talk to relate to them, and that can then eventually help me in the sale itself. So check before the call, go on their IG profile, their LinkedIn, You know, obviously you've got their number as well. Understand their job title. Job title is really good because it helps you with the payment objection, which we'll get into later. And understand, this enables you to understand what offer to push to your client in itself. So you can predict objections that way and lead the frame as an expert. Now, number 10, pre-anticipating objections or pre-handling objections. This one is critical, and the reason why I say this one is critical is because I was thinking, you know, okay, cool, we'll get to the stage, we give them the pitch, we give them the discovery, but we just handle objections. But you can avoid these objections in the first place by pre-handling them. So eliminating them before they've even come to you in the first place. This is by understanding who they are, asking them questions. Are they married? Are they living with someone? What could block the sale? Could they be kind of insecure from their past coach? Could affordability be real? Do you understand their job? You can avoid these objections by understanding more by your client. And this is all covered in the discovery part of the call in the first place. Now we'll get into discovery in a second. And number 11, follow up. This is also important because you can't wait for the call to go cold. If you're following up your client as well, do it immediately on the call. Make sure you have that next appointment, that you've got the next appointment in. In this situation, let's say you're on the call and they've said no, they've given you their answer as well. Or I need to think about it, or you know, whatever it could be. Make sure that you've booked the next call available. So, and look at an exact time for that. Send them their calendar invite before they've even hung up, so you're ready for that next call. Number 12, spike your energy pre-call. And this is also very important as well. And this can be done in a multitude of ways. Push-ups, you can pray, you can jump up and down, do brief exercise, whatever it needs to be. Because energy transfer as well, you know, is very real. And the prospect can even feel your energy before they've even gotten to the call. This is also part of your frame control. Make affirmations, do deep breathing to reset your nervous system. Whatever it is, you need to raise your energy so that they can feel your conviction. And number 13, truly believe you'll help them. You're not just doing this for money, you are actually changing lives as a closer. Whatever the offer is as well, understand that you are the expert. You are the therapist in their lives. You're giving them the solution. So look like someone who also will be paid. You will be paid and you're also helping them at the same time. So it's a win-win for every party. Now, pre-handling objections. Why is this important? Before you even got to the pitch process, you need to make sure that your client is 100% ready to proceed. They need to be asking you for the price. You're not supposed to be asking them. They're supposed to be asking, hey man, so how can we move forward from here? You know, what can we do next? Otherwise, they're not really ready. And you don't want to be fighting friction at the end of the call. You don't want to be fighting, oh, you know, I need to think about it. I think you're putting pressure on me. Don't want any of that. We don't want friction. We want to remove friction. We want this to be smooth as possible. They're supposed to feel extremely uncomfortable during the discovery so that when they get to the pitch, they're ready to take that action, take that faith, and take that leap of faith. Now, with pre-handling objections, there's multiple different objections we could be dealing with the discovery, and it's up to you to figure out based on the questions that you're asking. Number 1, the finances objection. This is usually when the prospect says, oh, you know, it's too much for me, or I can't afford this. This is an interesting one because you need to break it down into whether it's either the price of it, the price of the product, or if it's the value. Because oftentimes with the price in itself, if it's too expensive, it's quite difficult since the client actually might not be able to afford it themselves. However, if it's value, you need to make sure you reaffirm the value of the product and make sure that they know what they're actually getting into. Make sure that they know that this is going to change their lives for the better. Now, assess quickly if the prospect is financially qualified. So have they got the finances? You can do this sometimes before the call with research. If you go on Glassdoor, you might be able to see their salary, see if they've got their, you know, enough savings stacked away. And oftentimes it is quite difficult to ask for money directly, or how much do you make? Because everyone's always quite tight about finances. We've always been taught to, you know, be like, you know, isn't that personal question? You can't really ask me my salary. So you need to do it in a smooth way. Often gauge their lifestyle. You know, do they travel a lot? Do they go a lot of places? What clothes are they wearing? What do they often buy? You know, these are the questions you should be asking, but then do them in a discreet way and not just straight up, oh, how much money do you make? Because the client might be put off by that. And as I said before, you can also check their occupation, check where they live, you know, things like that. Pre-call, check the country, job title, and Glassdoor will give an estimated salary. Now for B2B niches as well, agencies, property, trading, and coaching directly tied to money, this is where you can be a bit more upfront, purely because they're trying to find a financial solution for their business as well. So gauging the price is very, very necessary for them. They're more logical and they're less emotional. Whereas B2C, we're often dealing with emotion directly.
And so to clarify, what you just said before about the financial qualification was to do with holistic niches.
Holistic niches,
Like
perfect, yeah.
fitness, dating, things that don't really have anything to do with money. But what you're going to speak about now, the financial qualification, is BizOp and B2B.
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
And this is where we might talk about their savings directly. You know, we want a capital probe. We want to understand how much cash flow are they actually really working with. And oftentimes they're a lot more willing to give it to you rather than a B2C, because you're not really dealing with emotions as much. You still are, but we're looking at direct solutions to their business. So they're trying to see if it's financially viable for them or not. Now, that's most of the finance objections. When it's a value issue, it's a whole different story. And this is where you need to reaffirm the value to the client and ensure that they know what they're actually getting to, what they're being provided with. Oftentimes you might ask questions like, hey, Isaac, so I'm trying to understand, you know, is this a pricing issue or is this a value issue? Is it a case where it's too expensive for you, or are you not really sure if this is worth the solution for you? Because let's say if it was like, I don't know, 5K on a car, it's not too expensive, right? But if it's 5K on a mil, whole different story. So is it just that you're not really sure about the solution we're providing you with?
I mean, for me, I'm not too sure about the solution you're providing me.
Essentially, exactly. And if he's not too sure, this is the case where we actually need to reaffirm the value. And we need to ask him, you know, why did you even hop on this call in the first place? Re-ask them again and again why they're here. And when they're able to resell themselves to you in the first place, then you can go ahead.
I want to ask you a question. So let's say I was a trader,
right?
And you wanted to ask me how much money I currently made. How would you ask that?
Yeah, so how much are you actually putting into the business roughly?
No, trader. If I was a
trader. Oh, if you're a trader. So if you're a Forex trader, oftentimes I would ask you, you know, how much are your trades themselves, or I wouldn't go directly into the solution itself. I would kind of dance around it, you know, how much are you
But the thing is,
holidays or...
you can be very direct with trading.
Oh, right, yeah.
I'll tell you this, right? BizOp, you should never go into the pitch without knowing exactly how much they make per month.
Right.
Exactly how much they have in the bank, savings wise, and I'll explain how. In terms of a trader, super simple. Okay, perfect. So David, you're trying to scale up to what exactly per month with trading?
Around 15K.
15K per month?
Yeah.
Why 15K?
I think, you know, that's the next benchmark for me. Already achieved 10K in trading.
Okay, and you've been trading for 2 years now, right?
That's correct, yeah.
How far are you exactly from that 15K?
Well, we've been dancing around between 10K to 11K. Haven't really been going past that, so.
10K, and is that like the last 6 months consistently, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say like for the last year or so, last 6 months or so, it's been, you know, a couple of sales, a couple of trades here and there.
But then if I wanted to get your savings or like how much you have in the bank, I'm gonna go, and so obviously, you know, with trading, there's 2 ways you can kind of do this.
Yeah.
You can use prop firms and trade with other people's money,
yeah,
right? And usually people who do this are in the savings level where maybe they have 1, 2, 3, 5K saved away, who knows? But then there's some guys who we have in the program who jump in, who've got 20, 30, 40K already saved up, and they're trading with their own money. In terms of actual liquid cash, what does that look like for you?
Liquid cash, I would say I've got around 4K, 5K.
Okay, cool. And so are you trading with that amount of money?
Or are you trading, yeah.
So you're trading with your live money for
Yeah.
5K, you're not using any prop firms or
Yeah.
funded accounts?
Yeah, that's correct.
Off the rip, the only reason you were able to answer that is because I asked it with incentive for you.
Right.
I didn't go, how much do you have in the bank? I went, some people have a lot of money and they use that money to trade.
Yeah.
Some people don't have a lot of money and they don't use that money to trade and use funded accounts. If I was doing property, I'd say, yeah, so we have people who do deal sourcing where you practically leave no money down and their savings levels like usually 1, 2, 3K. We have some people who are in the Airbnb and service accommodation game, they're trying to get into that, and you need at least 10, 15, 20K in the bank. Where are you at in terms of the savings side of things, just so I know what strategy is best for you?
So savings, I would say, since obviously you're saying 15, 20, I would say like 10K in savings.
And so now you only gave me the answer because I didn't just say how much you have in the savings, because that's a very direct question. You said, where are you? Because I'm just trying to ascertain what strategy is best for you. That is how you financially qualify in BizOp. How much money they're making right now, how much money they have in the bank, and you always ask it in benefit towards them. Right. How much they're making now is super easy. You just say, how far are you from your goal? Yeah. And oftentimes people will just go, I'm not too far. And they'll be like, okay, not too far. So you have like 10, 20 pounds in the bank, or you have like 5K, and laugh about it. Because obviously, you know, elicitation is the thing of assuming someone's thing, assuming someone's piece of information. Yeah. As long as it's incorrect, they're going to correct you. Like if I go to you, I mean, David, you're a pilot, right? Yeah. You're a pilot, right?
I am a pilot. No, I'm not a pilot, actually. I'm an accountant.
You're going to correct me because it's not incorrect, right?
Right.
So that's how you want to financially qualify in terms of the biz op niches. Now, talk to me about authority.
Amazing. So the authority objection, and this one is interesting because it can be either a smoke screen or a real constraint, because oftentimes...
Please, sorry to interrupt you. I want you to show me how to pre-handle it, not how to handle the objection at the end of the call.
Okay, so when we're dealing with it, when we're pre-handling it, we want to ask about if there's anyone else that needs to be on the call in the discovery in the first place. So oftentimes we come to the call and we're like, okay, for the B2B, do you have any other partners that need to be involved in this call? You know, that any other people, and they might say yes or no. If they say yes, usually we either want to reschedule the call for those partners, or if they can get the partner on the call, then we could take the call. Because there's no point going through the whole discovery process and then doing Chinese whispers after. They can't reiterate the sales process better than you can. They can't sell better than you. So oftentimes there's going to be a lot of friction if it's done off screen. So you need to obviously be there to either have the partners on the call or not on the call, but make sure you understand who is available.
Which other bodies of authority would you say there are across all niches?
Yeah, so
you said business partner.
Yeah.
What other types of partners?
B2C, we usually have romantic partners. This could be your husband, your wife, someone you make financial decisions with. And then obviously with B2B, you usually have your business partners. Oh, yeah. Of course, for younger prospects, you have your parents as well.
Precisely.
And that can also be quite difficult. So,
but then I want to ask you this, right? Because obviously you want to get the authority on the call.
Yeah.
But how do you affirm that that authority has to actually be on the call? Because for example, with parents, 90% of the time, the parents are going to be the ones actually making the financial decisions. I don't want to say 90% because it depends on the niche, but it depends. With romantic partners, it really just depends on the nature of their relationship.
Yeah.
Would you say there's anything you would say specifically to them to make sure you know, okay, this person actually needs their partner on the call romantically?
I mean, I think it's a case where I'd ask them, so if let's say if you were to, you obviously want to go ahead with the program, right? And they might be like, right, if you were to go ahead with the program, is there anyone that might not allow you to make the decision to go forward? And they might be like, yeah, it might be a case where I need to talk to my husband, or I need to talk to my wife, or ask my parents. In that case, if they need to ask their parents, I would obviously say, why don't we just get them on the call, or can we reschedule for them to be on the call?
Okay, and I want us to pause here. Here, I need you to be way more specific with this, and I'll explain why. Realistically, you need to get the actual, let's say we're talking about romantic partners.
Yeah.
Some romantic partners don't need to be on the call. We can brute force that.
That's true.
We need to get the specific amount that is required for them to go, I need to speak to my partner with this. So for example, what I'm gonna do is, firstly, I'm not even just gonna go, do you need to have your partner on this? That's a bit too direct.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go, and so David, I mean, wife, girlfriend, what's the situation?
I could go, yeah.
Okay, you go, how long have you guys been together?
Just over a year.
Cool. And in terms of elevating your trading game, making 15K a month with trading, is she supportive of this? Does she not care at all? Is she against this? Like, what's the situation?
I mean, she's obviously supportive, but I don't think she would really want me, you know, putting some money into it if it was a bit expensive.
Okay, so she's supportive. Why is she supportive?
Because, I mean, she wants me in better health, so.
Trading?
So she wants me, to be rich. That's why I should be supportive, so.
She's supportive, but then she doesn't want you to put any money into mentorship?
I mean, you know, she might think it's a scam, or she might not be too comfortable with it, so.
Okay, cool. But this is the thing, right? If you had to buy 5-10K car, Mercedes dealership, you'd have to speak to your wife.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
But in the same breath, if you had to go to the chocolate shop and get a Snickers bar, you'd not have to speak to her.
Yeah.
What is that amount, you being the man of the household, where you know, okay, I'd have to have this conversation and we have to make this decision collectively?
I think £1,000 purchase, like, we would now have to have that conversations.
Okay, realistically, if it was anything above £1,000, you'd 100% have to have the conversation with your partner.
Yeah.
So, realistically, I hate Chinese whispers.
Right.
The reason why I hate Chinese whispers is, if we don't have your partner on this call, we can't move forward with velocity towards getting you towards your goals. And there's no one really who can articulate this program and what we've got, the system we use, better than myself. Do you think it would be a horrible idea for us to get your partner on this call so that we can all have this collective conversation and move forward?
I think that's something we could arrange, yeah.
Something we could arrange.
Yeah. Because she obviously working things.
And then we arrange the time, right? But I will say, you can brute force it. Let's say for me, if the course was 2K, and he said 1K, getting to the end of the call, if you choose to go forward with the call and you feel like you can shift this paradigm, you can actually objection handle the partner objection.
I need to think about it. Now, this one is interesting because it kind of relates to real life. It's the reason we have wealthy people and people that aren't as rich, because what did rich people do differently to people that weren't rich? They took action. And oftentimes when we're dealing with people that say, I need to think about it, it's people that have something called analysis paralysis. They have all the information available to them, but they can't take action, okay? So we're dealing with dysfunctional human beings. Also understand that this is emotional, logical. They understand that, yeah, this solution could be good for me, but I'm not really comfortable making a decision. So we need to shank it with identity pressure. And this is the most famous type of shank that we usually use. It's called the dual archetype shank. We usually have two different people, let's say Mark, Tom, and Mark is someone who's an action taker. He's received all the information and he actually takes action. Whereas Tom receives all the information and doesn't really consider it, doesn't go ahead of the program, and he's still in the same position he is a year after. Now we kind of want to put these two people and say, which one are you? We want to make sure that the prospect identifies with whichever one they want to be. And obviously they want to be Mark rather than Tom, right? Yeah. So this will force them to take pressure, to take action, because of putting pressure on their identity. And that's what I need to think about it, Shank. It's not the right time objection. So let them sell back their urgency. That's how you pre-handle that. So oftentimes you'd ask them, so when you're looking to implement a solution, when are you looking to, make this change or go ahead of the program if it is the right fit for you? They're usually going to say ASAP, as soon as possible. Then you're saying, oh, ASAP. Wait, why ASAP? Why not in a couple of weeks? Why not in a couple of months or years? Once they do that, they're going to speak about all the problems of why they need to change now. And essentially that is them reselling themselves back to you, because now they're like, oh, actually, I do need this and I do need this now. Because at the end of the day, for these prospects, urgency is the biggest problem. It may not mean necessarily the fact that they want to change, but they need to change now. And that's the whole part of it. You're trying to make sure that they become an action taker. So dealing with that objection is not too difficult. I have other responsibilities objection. So this is just where you confirm the time commitment, availability early. Another essential point about sales is I realized articulation is so key. Communication is the pinnacle of sales, because if you can't communicate, you can't sell. And if you can't sell, you can't ask the questions that your prospect needs in the first place to even get the sale in the first place. And it's crazy because I always thought I was an all right speaker. Yeah, not too bad. I could also hold my own, in that aspect. But I feel like the more you practice sales, the worse you realize you actually are at speaking, and it opens up a lot of holes. So I even set myself a reminder to use less filler words, work on my tonality as well, so I can have this regular reminder every single hour telling me to improve my communication, because you're going to use communication everywhere, regardless if you're a sales rep or not. Even in any business venture you're going to go into, whether it's trading, whether it's e-commerce as well, having a business is so important, because you need to be able to communicate with different people, with different prospects, understand tonality, understand articulation, your pitch, your conviction, the different tones that you're supposed to use. They are so important and so fundamental. And that's literally how you grasp people, because at the end of the day, the product is there, but you are the product. You are selling yourself in the sales process. They're buying into you. They're not buying the product because the product is good. They're buying the product because you made it appear good to them. So that's why it's so important.
So, David, after consuming all the modules, I mean, realistically, if we went through every single module, we'd be here for hours. What would you say is the most important thing you have learned about sales? And those are difficult questions, you can take your time, but what is the most important thing you have learned?
Most important thing I've learned about sales, I think it's something I had to unlearn, is the fact that the sales process doesn't actually happen in the pitch. It's not about providing the product, because the product is already good, but the product is not the problem. The problem is the prospect themselves. So what you need to understand is that the discovery is actually where the money is made. You need to rewire their whole mindset and understand that, or reaffirm to them that they need to take action now to make this happen. Because otherwise they'll go about thinking about it, go about their day, 6 months come by, a year comes by, they're still in the exact same position. So yeah, I would say that's probably the most important part. Understand how important the discovery is, asking questions. You are not a salesman, you are a therapist. You are trying to fix the problems. You're trying to get to the root cause of the issue. So if it means to have to keep on asking why is this the case? Why do you do this? Why do you need the solution? Why do you need it now? Why do you not need it later? That's the most important part of the sales process, understanding your prospect. And the more you can understand them and understand how psychology, which is very important, plays into the sales process, the easier it will be to the point when you get to the pitch. Because how it's supposed to be, obviously, you come to the call, you obviously ask a question, say, let's get straight in, have a discovery. They're supposed to be squirming during the discovery. They're supposed to find it uncomfortable. So that by the time they get to the pitch, they're like, oh yeah, this is easy. I'm just, I'm ready to go ahead. Because I've also watched one video and it's like, they go through the discovery and then he asks, obviously they're like, so how can we move forward from here? And they're saying, no, I'm actually ready to go to the sales process. I'm actually ready. Well, what's the price? And he says, are you sure you're ready? And he reaffirms back to them if they're ready, because they need to be ready. They need to tell themselves that they need to take action now. Otherwise, nothing changes. So by the time they get to the pitch, smooth sailing process. So yeah.
Amazing. So David, first and foremost, I want to appreciate the time you took to go through all these modules and take notes in the in-depth fashion as to which you took them. I've had many of these in-person and online assessments where people have kind of broken down their knowledge of things, and I can see that you took this very, very seriously, and I want to respect that and appreciate that. I'm extremely excited for your journey, and we're going to come back to this video by December, and we're going to have another testimonial video to film, okay? That being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video and gained some value. And if you are a person working, whether it's a 9 to 5, corporate, sales, door-to-door, car sales, tech sales, even if you're just someone who's already a high ticket sales rep, who's just not hitting the commissions they want to hit, what are you doing? All you have to do is go in the bio and book in a call. It's not complicated, right? But seriously, the only way you can elevate is by speaking to people who are ahead or in the position you want to be in. And frankly speaking, you've seen the reps making 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40K a month. It's just about, do you want to expedite the process and move quicker, or do you want to figure everything out by yourself? I'll tell you guys for free, I didn't figure everything out by myself. Guys, I love you all. God bless, take care of yourself. God made, God paid.